You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network. Produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
If it's got a use and it's sharp and pointy, I can make it. My name is Kim Breed, and I'm a custom knife maker in Clarksville, Tennessee. Originally, I'm from a little town called O'Connell, Wisconsin, which is in upper regions of Wisconsin. It goes back to when I was a young man. My dad was a commercial fisherman, so I knew knives from 5 years old. I was boning fish, cleaning fish. I was bored of being home, and I decided to try something different and join the military. 18, you know, because everybody was kind of shocked, especially my mom and dad. They didn't exactly agree with it, but it is what it is. Made me a better man. 5th Special Forces Group, which is a special operations, most people know it as the Green Berets, but that's the hat that we wear. So it's just, we're just trained in different forms of combat. They definitely push the limits, especially Special Forces will. But I got to see all over, you know, all over Africa, all over the Middle East, all over Europe. So I can't complain a bit. If I could, I'd do it all over again.
You speak Arabic?
Shoy shoy. Munfadluk. Arabic and then Russian. Most people can understand it, just dialect is different. Sudan, they speak Arabic, but it's got clicks and whistles in it. Egyptian is different than Arabic, but some of the words are the same. You can converse, but most of them speak English. So it just depends on where you go. But them are the two main languages. Sometimes English. No, salam alaikum, kif halak? Kwez wa alhamdulillah. Здравствуйте, товарищ, как вы поживаете? You know, just little things, hey, how you doing? That's about it, because my vocabulary went from real big to like real small. We moved here to Fort Campbell in '88. Loved the area, stayed. It's really pro-military. I came across a knife maker, Perry Elder, but that was 1988, just before Desert Storm. That's when I met. He used to live by post. He had the forging area, which, as a matter of fact, the forge and the press and the power hammer, that was all his. I have a picture of him hanging in the shop. He guided me in how to make them. He got me started on the bug. So then I was like, I can make better than what I want. That started it. I always carry pocket knife. You open up boxes, you do whatever. So it's a tool. It's like carrying a crescent wrench. Most guys will have wrenches in their truck. Well, you should have a knife in your truck because it's a tool. Idle hands are the devil's. You gotta stay busy, because I came from high energy, high everything in Special Forces to you get out and then it's like, now what? So you can't, that major drop, you have to up everything. You always got to stay busy. Otherwise you go stir crazy sitting around the house. I'm retired at 37 and been making knives ever since. Most knives are made either by forging or stock removal. Stock removal basically is you have a bar of steel, you draw out the knife shape on it, cut it out with a bandsaw, and then grind in your bevels and put your handles on. Forging, it can be anything. Gun barrels, cut them in half, I cut them into pieces, and then you weld all that together and you end up with a really cool pattern in the steel. Damascus is layering of steel. It can be, usually it's 13 to 20 layers stacked up of different steel, and that's forge welded through heat and pressure into a homogeneous bar of steel. And that pattern can be manipulated by twisting, by using punches, by drilling holes. That's what I like to do, is play around with Damascus. The beast is getting ready to get lit. Like maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. It takes a while for the steel to heat up. It's a 25-pound little giant. It was built in the 1920s and it's still running strong. Coming in. This is called dragon scale Damascus, made with ball bearings and powdered steel. Dragon scale and multi-composite mosaic. This flattens out the steel. And I have to do this because when you put the handles on, if the handles aren't perfectly flat, the glue doesn't want to stick and it looks ugly. Nice flat area, rough, low spot. It's another step in the knife making process. I've been doing it for so long, I learned to fix a lot of stuff. But the main thing is that if you get bad heat treat and you get a crack in the blade, you can't salvage that. It's scrap. Or doing Damascus, if I get a bad spot in the middle of it after I've already ground and heat treated, there's nothing I can do for it. Look for a bright red on the edge. Going for the quench. Once the blade is heat treated and it comes out of the quench, it has to go in the oven because you got to pull some of the hardness out of the blade so you don't chip your edge. That way then it holds its edge without chipping. You get a little flex to the blade. This is ferric chloride to bring out the temper line in the knife. The dark steel is the hardened part of the steel. Heat treat, ground, finish knife. Say from when I first started, if I averaged about 20 a month, that would be, so you're looking thousands of knives already. And right now I've gone from that to where it took me 5 days to grind a knife. Now I'm down, I can grind 20 in a day if I have to. As long as it's sharp and pointy, it doesn't matter. But everybody has to remember, the more steel and the more stuff that's involved with it, the cost goes up. Because, of course, everybody knows now everything's going higher. So steel cost, belt cost, handle material, everything has gone through the roof. And then you got to figure labor for just that. You know, you do a 36-inch long katana, which is a Japanese sword. I've built them before. But the problem is that when you deal 36 inches times 250 bucks an inch or 250 an inch, it starts getting, yeah, you start talking $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 because one little oops, all that time, all that material is junk. I expect all my knives, even my higher end knives, I expect them to be used. That's what they're built for, because I build them strong. But I like the users. You know, the $150 to $350, the hunter, the survival knives or something like that. I expect guys to go out there and chop trees, split wood, dig a rock out of the ground, do whatever, because I carry a full my lifetime guarantee. If you mess it up, hopefully you don't break it, which I doubt. But you scratch it up, it gets all rusty, which I understand. You just bring it back and I refinish it for free. Now most people won't take a $2,000 knife and go use it, but I have clients that do it. And once a year, you know, twice every century, they'll send it back and I'll redo it for them and send it back. Then they get a brand new knife. That's where the artistic part of it comes from, because I can take a handful of stuff that looks like literally junk, something that you'd find off at the bottom of the Cumberland, just scrap, just steel and whatever, and I can turn that into a highly functional art knife. It just depends on the level of what you want to take it. Of course, the more I work on it, the more expensive it is. That one piece of Damascus, and there's 10 days worth of forging in that one little bar. It's just a never-ending process, and then, you know, you get one bad weld, and then all that work is gone. I still keep learning every time I do it. And just when you think you know it all, yeah, then it happens and it blows apart, and then you just wasted 4 days. So then you just, that's the process that I like. I like that challenge. Every now and then you have to flex your skills, push your skills to make an art knife, which really, yeah, it has its uses, but it's real too pretty. You just want to sit there and look at it. You really don't want to get it dirty. That's fine to push your talent, but still, most knife makers, they like that bread and butter, the using knives, the hunting knives, the person that an average person would use. Of course, military's right here, so I get a lot of fighting knife survival style knives, but a lot of hunters, you know, and you just adjust it accordingly. Making knives gives me that artistic ability to where you can express whatever in your knives. I can make them fancy, curves. There's so many different directions you can go. That keeps your mind thinking at all times. It's always dangerous during knife makers, the grinder, the bandsaw. They gotta kind of keep your P's and Q's about you. Forging is where you get to manipulate the steel. And that's where you really get to see what happens when you add this or add this. We were talking about the canned Damascus. So I use fish hooks, ball bearings, screws, nuts, just whatever. I've used bits of files. He had his grandfather's files. I cut it up in little 1/4-inch pieces and put it in the can. And then that all gets welded together. And then when you forge it out, do I know what it's gonna look like? I know what it should look like. And that's where you get a chance to flex, relax, and just kind of get into the beat of the power hammer when it's going bang, 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 bang. Or hand hammering, you get all that aggression. Somebody cuts you off, everybody's mad and everything else like that. 10 minutes, hot steel with a hammer, that's it. You're relaxed, you're calm. You don't have no more pressure on you. Everything just floats away. Real close to the house. If I gotta do something extra or forget something, you know, I walk 30 feet, I'm in my shop. So yeah, it really pays off to, you know, have my little hobby place right there. Working with my hands and knowing what I'm doing, as you look at something, you can say, oh, that's mass produced in wherever. Junk. And then you go to some of the local shows and stuff, and you actually pick up something, you start looking at it going, oh, how did he do that? And then you start looking at the stuff and going, oh, that had to suck. And then you start realizing, you know what, that took some time. That's not a one-day project. He's got time into this. You pay for the quality, and that's what it is, because the man, you know, does his work. But you can spot it from other things, and you can, just by looking around and stuff like that, you can, okay, I could use that for this, or I could use this for handle material, or you just start picking a down tree fell across the road. Cut it out of the road, oh, look at this wood. Now I got handle material. So you always utilize, keep your eyes open for stuff. Lawnmower blade, that'll be knives. I do a lot of it. A lot of it is usually tools. Old crescent wrenches. This was my dad's roofing hammer. He was a roofer back in the 20s. And I just tell you, his grandfather started the saw business. He's in his 70s now, so that got passed all the way through, and they had a chunk of the old bandsaw blade. So we took that, cut it up in little pieces, and I made Damascus out of them, and had a little piece left over that showed the teeth, and that went on the plaque, and that went to him. So then that'll be passed on to his sons, and so on and so forth. A lot of my knives are passed on, and that's what you want. Use them hard and then pass them on, because they'll stand the test of time. Started during Desert Storm, of course. I had acquired a Blade magazine, is the name of the magazine, and they had an article in there, how to make knives from scrap steel. And when I was on it, I was reading the articles, and I'm like, well, heck, I'm in a combat zone. What a better place to test a knife. So I contacted Steve Shackelford, the editor, and he said, that would be cool. So then they put whoever, send Kim a knife, and we did it. And I actually did my test in Kuwait. So that was pretty cool for my first article. And then there, it just grew, went from quarterly to monthly, and I've been doing that since 1990. So, and that really helped with the name notoriety when it goes out, because most people, if you're in the knives, you read the magazine, you know who I am. So you're talking about 25 years, give or take a little bit. Wow. And that's all about, the article is all about testing knives. What will the knives cut? How long do the edge last? And I use that information to do my own knives. So I know what the knife is supposed to do before I even make it. Review, test, actual function test, and comments, deletions, additions that would make the knife better. To help the makers, because knife making is another community, and you try to help your buddy make a better knife, which increases sales and everything else like that. Blade show at Atlanta, and that's in Marietta, Georgia. And that's 4 days of international chaos. There are so many, they had people sleeping out for 2 days just to get in the door. So it's the biggest knife show around. They have other ones, there's other ones across different states, but I stay local and I do that one. That's all I do. When you join the military, you're offering your services. And of course, like they always say, the contract doesn't wear out. It just switches over into civilian field. Normally the military, you have a general brotherhood if you served or not, or even if you're a good supporter of the military. But then when you get in a special operations unit, you all have a common ground. So, and that brings it on even tighter. So you always have your brother's back, no matter what happens. There was friends of the NRA, the Turkey Club. They do knife rights, special ops excursions. A taxidermy friend of mine, they auction off a knife all the time. So, and that goes for the Trappers Association or something like that. But I always give a knife if somebody asks. You give back. Military, law enforcement, firefighters, all of them, and I have friends in all three. They go to the head of the list just because they're usually time sensitive, especially with military deployment. Guy loses, can't find, and I need a knife in 2 days. Firefighters, I have firefighters that I made knives out of the jaws of life. The jaws break, so I took the piece that was broke and forged it out and made them a knife out of it. So it's just helping. One of the things on my back burner is we're trying to figure out how to do it like a nonprofit, but we want to be able to get it so where we can actually have forging classes that are free to the military, to the people that are getting out, kind of give them a little, maybe a day or two. Granted, I do it at my shop, but there's a cost involved with it. Military gets a break, of course, but still, just to have a nonprofit so that when they run them through, but the final thing over there, and they can say, hey, by the way, this is being offered. So once you're out for 30 days and you realize you're out, you give these guys a call, get back in doing something. So, and as long as you stay active, it cuts down on a lot of issues or problems that retired military are having. What I'll do tonight is I already got handle material glued up. We can go to the grinder and finish it. The grinding, when I do the handles and stuff, it don't take long. I've been doing this since 1990. So it don't take me long at all to chew it off. Drop grit size. A bit of buffing compound, pink nose scratch. Checking for sand scratches. Tape the blade so you don't scratch it while you're doing this stuff. Put a little bit of Johnson paste wax on it to seal up the wood, and done deal. A little bit of oil. All that's left is sharpen. It's ready for slicing and dicing. Once you get in the groove, you just keep rolling. That's how you make a knife. Profile, grind, heat treat, grind again, put the handle material on, grind the handle, done. I'll just advertise it on Instagram. Just post it available. And if anybody wants it, they send me money, I send them a knife. I have a company that they'll carry a few of my knives called American Edge. You can find them AmericanEdge.com or Instagram American Edge. I do a lot of my advertising on Instagram. That's where a lot of sales come from. And that's Kim Breed 1911. And the rest of it is, it's word of mouth. You know, I'll be sitting there working in a shop and all of a sudden I got a sheriff's car pulls up and I'm like, oh. He's coming to check out, see what I'm doing, and hey, I got an uncle that's having a birthday, I need a knife. Okay. Every day I'm in the shop. Trust me, my wife tells me about it. Every day, there's always something to do. So sometimes you gotta pull away so you got family time, or I'll go camping every other weekend or every third weekend. You know, just to kind of take a break, reset, go camping. And I'm looking for, I found an anvil, I found some roller bearings. Hey, you find stuff, and you know, I just throw it in the back of the truck and cart it back home. You're always thinking about the next latest, greatest, something that would look cool, something that would look decent. I've screwed up enough to know what I'm supposed to do. But most knife makers, you always lean toward the one that feels the best and the one you're the most comfortable with. But I did a collaboration with a knife company, Spartan Blades, and they produced my Breed Fighter. Well, theirs was a little bit bigger, a little bit everything. Worked great, it did its course, right? And then I re-engineered a little bit and come up with it, and I designed it. It changed a few changes, and I fell in love with the knife. I couldn't, and every time I would post it, right, I'd always get sales. And it's like, what is it about this thing? And I started playing, carrying, and just going, and I'm like, dang, I built a pretty dang good knife. I like this one. So, nah, this one ain't for sale. This one goes in the truck, or it goes using knife. And then I was like, you know, I'd love to advertise. How did I do advertise? So, unfortunately, that's the best way to advertise. So this is my favorite knife. This was the flagship that exhumes me. Sleek, classy, yet nasty, all at the same time.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.